അവർക്ക് ഇങ്ങനെ പല തരത്തിലുള്ള ആൾക്കാർ ഈ മേഖലയിൽ നിന്ന് പ്രവർത്തിക്കുന്നു എന്നുള്ളതാണ് യാഥാർത്ഥ്യം. അപ്പോൾ അതില് ഏറ്റവും പ്രധാനം ഞങ്ങളെ പോലുള്ളവർക്ക് ഈ ലൈഫ് സ്കിൽ കേൾക്കുന്നത് 2005 കാലഘട്ടങ്ങളിലാണ്. ഡോക്ടർ രാധാകൃഷ്ണൻ സാറ് ശ്രീപെരുമ്പത്തൂർ രാജീവ് ഗാന്ധി നാഷണൽ ഇൻസ്റ്റിറ്റ്യൂട്ട് ഓഫ് യൂത്ത് ഡെവലപ്മെന്റിലേക്ക് പോയിട്ടുണ്ടെങ്കിലും അവിടെയാണ് ആദ്യമായിട്ട് ഷാനു സോഷ്യൽ ഹാർമണി ആൻഡ് നാഷണൽ യൂണിറ്റി ആൻഡ് ഡിപ്പാർട്ട്മെന്റ് ഓഫ് ലൈഫ് സ്കിൽസ് എന്നൊരു വിഭാഗം ആരംഭിക്കുകയും അതുമായി ബന്ധപ്പെട്ട് നിരവധി കൂടിയിരിക്കലുകളും ചർച്ചകളും മോഡൽ പ്രിപ്പറേഷനും ട്രെയിനിങ് മാനുവൽ ഉണ്ടാക്കുകയൊക്കെ ചെയ്യുന്ന ഒരുപിടി എക്സർസൈസ് നടന്ന കാലഘട്ടത്തിലാണ് ഞങ്ങളൊക്കെ ഈ ലൈഫ് സ്കിൽസിനെ കുറിച്ച് അറിയുന്നത്. ആ ലൈഫ് സ്കിൽസിൻ്റെ ആ ഒരു പഠന പ്രക്രിയയുടെ ഭാഗമായിട്ട് തുടർന്ന് വന്നാണ് ഒരു പ്രൊഫഷണൽ ഓർഗനൈസേഷൻ്റെ ആവശ്യത്തെക്കുറിച്ച് ചിന്ത കടന്നു വരുന്നത്. അങ്ങനെയാണ് IALC എന്ന ഇന്ത്യൻ അസോസിയേഷൻ ഓഫ് ലൈഫ് സ്കിൽസ് എഡ്യൂക്കേഷൻ എന്ന് പറഞ്ഞ് ചെന്നൈ ബേസ് ചെയ്തിട്ട് ഒരു പ്രൊഫഷണൽ ഓർഗനൈസേഷൻ ആരംഭിക്കുകയും ചെയ്തത്. അപ്പോൾ ഇതാണ് അതിൻ്റെ ഒരു പശ്ചാത്തലം. ഇന്ന് എല്ലാവരും നമ്മൾ പൊതുവിൽ ഈ ലൈഫ് സ്കിൽസിനെ കുറിച്ച് കൂടുതൽ അവെയറാകുന്ന തരത്തിലേക്കാണ് കാര്യങ്ങൾ പൊയ്ക്കൊണ്ടിരിക്കുന്നത്. ഇന്ന് ഈ ഒരു പുസ്തക പ്രകാശനത്തിൽ എത്തിയിട്ടുള്ള എല്ലാവർക്കും സ്വാഗതം ആശംസിക്കുകയാണ് എൻ്റെ കർത്തവ്യം. ഇതിൽ 188 പേജുകളുള്ള ഒരു ട്രെയിനിങ് വേണ്ടിയിട്ട് റെഡി റെക്കണർ എന്ന പേരിൽ ഇറക്കുന്ന 188 പേജും 15 അധ്യായങ്ങളോടും കൂടിയിട്ടുള്ള ഒരു പുസ്തകമാണ്. ഒന്നാമത്തെ അധ്യായം എന്ന് പറഞ്ഞാൽ ഇൻട്രൊഡക്ഷൻ ഓഫ് ലൈഫ്. അവസാനം 15ാമത്തെ അധ്യായത്തിൽ ഡിസൈനിങ് ഓഫ് എ ട്രെയിനിങ് പ്രോഗ്രാം, എങ്ങനെ ഒരു ട്രെയിനിങ് പ്രോഗ്രാം നമുക്ക് കണ്ടക്ട് ചെയ്യാം. അപ്പോൾ ഇതൊരു ട്രെയിനർക്കും അതുപോലെ തന്നെ പ്രൊഫഷണൽസിനും പ്രാക്ടീഷണർക്കും ഈ ഒരു ഹാൻഡ് ബുക്ക് 188 പേജ് എന്ന് പറയുമ്പോഴത്തേക്കും വളരെ വിലമായിട്ട് എല്ലാവർക്കും വളരെ സിമ്പിളായിട്ടുള്ള ഭാഷയിൽ പ്രസിദ്ധീകരിച്ചിട്ടുള്ള പുസ്തകമാണ്. ഇത് പബ്ലിഷ് ചെയ്യുന്നത് സദേൺ ബുക്ക് സ്റ്റാർ എന്ന പബ്ലിഷിംഗ് കമ്പനിയാണ്. അക്കാഡമിക് രംഗത്ത് അതിൻ്റെ ഏറ്റവും കൂടുതൽ പുസ്തകങ്ങൾ പ്രസിദ്ധീകരിക്കുന്ന ശ്രീ വിനയകുമാറാണ് അതിൻ്റെ പബ്ലിഷർ. അദ്ദേഹത്തിൻ്റെ നേതൃത്വത്തിലാണ് ഈ ഒരു പുസ്തകം പബ്ലിഷ് ചെയ്തിരിക്കുന്നത്. അപ്പോൾ എൻ്റെ കർത്തവ്യത്തിലേക്ക് കിടക്കുകയാണ്. ഈ പുസ്തകം റിലീസ് ചെയ്യുന്നത് നമ്മുടെ എല്ലാവർക്കും പരിചിതനായ മുൻ ചീഫ് സെക്രട്ടറി ശ്രീ ജിജി തോംസൺ അവർകളാണ്. അദ്ദേഹം നല്ലൊരു കമ്മ്യൂണിക്കേറ്ററാണ്. നല്ല അഡ്മിനിസ്ട്രേറ്റർ എന്ന നിലയിൽ പേര് പ്രാഗൽഭ്യം തെളിയിച്ച വ്യക്തിത്വമാണ് ശ്രീ ജിജി തോംസൺ. ജിജി തോംസനെ ഈ വേദിയിലേക്ക് നിങ്ങൾക്ക് വേണ്ടി സ്വാഗതം ചെയ്യും. അതുപോലെ തന്നെ ഈ പുസ്തകം സ്വീകരിക്കുന്നത് ഇപ്പോൾ തന്നെ സർക്കാർ സർവീസിൽ തുടരുന്ന ഡോക്ടർ ഇളങ്കോവൻ, വ്യവസായ വകുപ്പിൻ്റെ ഇൻഡസ്ട്രീസ് ഡിപ്പാർട്ട്മെൻറ്റ് പ്രിൻസിപ്പൽ സെക്രട്ടറി ആയിട്ടുള്ള ശ്രീ ഡോക്ടർ ഇളങ്കോവൻ സാറാണ്. അദ്ദേഹത്തെ ഈ വേദിയിലേക്ക് സ്വാഗതം ചെയ്യും. ഈ പുസ്തകം ഇൻട്രൊഡ്യൂസ് ചെയ്ത് ആ പുസ്തകത്തിൻ്റെ ഉള്ളടക്കം ഇന്നത്തെ സാമൂഹ്യ പശ്ചാത്തലത്തിൽ സോഷ്യൽ റിലവൻസുമായി ബന്ധപ്പെട്ട് ഈ പുസ്തകത്തെ ഇൻട്രൊഡ്യൂസ് ചെയ്യുന്നത് ജോൺ സാമുവൽ ഒരു ഇൻ്റർനാഷണൽ ലെവലിലെ പബ്ലിക് പോളിസി എക്സ്പെർട്ടാണ്. വിവിധതരം ഡിസ്കഷനിലും ഡിബേറ്റ്സിലും ഒക്കെ വളരെ സജീവമായിട്ട് ഇടപെടൽ നടത്തുന്ന UNDP-യിൽ മനുഷ്യാവകാശ വിഭാഗത്തിൻ്റെ ഹെഡായുകയും അവസാനമായി മനുഷ്യാവകാശ പ്രവർത്തനങ്ങൾക്ക് വേണ്ടിയുള്ള ഫോറം ഏഷ്യയുടെ CEO ആയി മതിയാക്കിയതിന് ശേഷം കേരളത്തിൽ വളരെ സജീവമായിട്ടുള്ള സാമൂഹ്യ ഇടപെടൽ നടത്തുന്ന ഒരു വ്യക്തിത്വമാണ്. ഇവിടെ ഇതിന് തൊട്ടടുത്ത് തന്നെ ഗോൾഫ് ക്ലബിൻ്റെ തൊട്ടടുത്തായിട്ട് പ്രവർത്തിക്കുന്ന ISDG എന്ന ചുരുക്കപ്പേരിൽ അറിയുന്ന ഇൻസ്റ്റിറ്റ്യൂട്ട് ഫോർ സസ്റ്റൈനബിൾ ഡെവലപ്മെൻറ്റ് ആൻഡ് ഗവേണൻസ്, അതുപോലെ തന്നെ NCAS നാഷണൽ സെൻറ്റർ ഫോർ അഡ്വക്കസി സ്റ്റഡീസ്, അങ്ങനെ നിരവധി സംഘടനകളുമായി ബന്ധപ്പെട്ട് ട്രെയിനറാണ്, എഴുത്തുകാരനാണ്. അങ്ങനെ വിവിധ മേഖലകളിൽ അദ്ദേഹത്തിന് പ്രാഗൽഭ്യം തെളിയിച്ച വ്യക്തിത്വമാണ് ശ്രീ ജോൺ സാമുവൽ. ഇപ്പോൾ പുതുതായിട്ട് രൂപീകരിച്ച കേരള പ്രദേശ് കോൺഗ്രസ് കമ്മിറ്റിയുടെ പബ്ലിക് പോളിസി ഡിവിഷൻ്റെ ചെയർപേഴ്സൺ കൂടിയാണ് ശ്രീ ജോൺ സാമുവൽ. ജോൺ സാമുവലിനെ JS അടൂർ എന്ന അറിയപ്പെടുന്നു. പക്ഷേ ഞങ്ങളെല്ലാം വിളിക്കുന്നത് ജോൺ സാമുവൽ എന്ന JS അടൂരിനെ നിങ്ങൾക്ക് വേണ്ടി സദർശനം സ്വാഗതം ചെയ്യും. ഇന്നിവിടെ എത്തിയിട്ടുള്ള വളരെ പ്രധാനപ്പെട്ട വ്യക്തിത്വങ്ങൾ എല്ലാവരെയും അറിയാവുന്നവരാണ്. എങ്കിൽ പോലും എല്ലാവർക്കും ഒരിക്കൽ കൂടി സ്വാഗതം ആശംസിച്ചുകൊണ്ട് നിർത്തുന്നു. നന്ദി, നമസ്കാരം.
Most respected and my dear mentor and Guru, Sri Gigi Thompson, Sir, Dr. K. Ilangovan, IAS, Sir, Sri John Samuel, and other dignitaries who is participating in the program. I know each and every one of you are representing a very big institution. And due to this COVID-19 protocol that we are not invited a big audience. In fact, we thought of having a very big audience and to make it as a seminar to introduce the subject, but due to this COVID issues, we could not do that. We are having this program, going on live in YouTube and Google Meet. And there are a lot of people who are joining in this program outside Kerala. That is why I switched my talk into English, and I am sure that everyone who is attending this program is fluent in the language, so it is not a problem for you to follow the language. And I requested our guests also to speak in English, so that the audience who is sitting across our this auditorium also can understand the content what we are going to discuss in this meeting. I am now an intruder here because just now I would like to invite John Samuel, who is already Mr. Anil Kumar has introduced him to you, and I thought I will introduce each and every one of you just before they talk. That is would be ideal to have a brief about them before they are speaking, and then the people can connect very easily what they are speaking. And Mr. John Samuel is a known figure in policy matters. He is a policy person, policy framing or policy research and things like that. He has a very long service of experience in working in multilateral and bilateral organizations. Bilateral, he was a very senior person who worked in World Vision and then with the UN and then with several multilateral and bilateral organizations he worked, and now he is came back to his own land and he is now concentrating on various policy issues, especially those affecting the downtrodden and the marginalized communities. He is working very sincerely, and he has, when I requested him to introduce the book, he very happily took the responsibility, and he agreed that he will talk on the subject, and I know that he is very good in that subject also. He is doing it for decades. He is working on this subject, and with these words I invite Sri John Samuel to introduce the book.
Dr. A. Radhakrishnan Nair, Sri Gigi Thompson, Dr. Ilangovan, Anil Kumar, friends and colleagues in this audience. It's such a pleasure to introduce this book. The outset itself, I would like to congratulate that it's a collective work. It's a collective efforts of 4 people, led by Dr. A. Radhakrishnan Nair and Sunitha Ranjan, Gauri Hardikar and Divya Sandhanam. And the first thing which struck me about this book is it is evolved through practice. So there are different ways of writing a book. You can spend 3 months, get some, go to a library. Many of these frameworks are available. You can write a book. You can cook a book. It's very, and there are lots of manuals all over. But what makes these books very distinct is it's a book which may have a collective experience of almost 30 plus years. And that collective experience of practitioners is what makes it very interesting. And if you really look at the background of the practitioners, they represent a multidisciplinary academic and experiential perspective. Social work, psychology, training, and people from different parts of India. So in a sense, it's truly, I can understand why he said it should be, sort of spoken in English, because it's a national project. It's not a book written by, he could have sat here and wrote this book. But this is a book written by people across the country, right from Mumbai to Madras, and that's what struck me. So it's a collective work. Why collective work? Because to work in a collective itself is a life skill. You cannot, to write a book is a domain knowledge. You can write but to work together in a project and to sort of harmonize it into a knowledge product requires a process, and that process requires a lot of life skills. So that is the first thing I wanted to congratulate the editors of this work. The second thing which struck me was it has, of course, it's a psychosocial approach, and it has drawn from the best of different knowledge resources. As you said, behaviorism, social psychology, training approaches, conflict resolution approaches. There are multidisciplinary approaches which is there, and management and leadership approach. So it has an eclectic content. That's what makes it interesting. Usually many of these books are, ABC, it's so predictable. It has an eclectic perspective. The third thing about it is, as you said, it's a ready reckoner. It's very accessible to anybody. Anyone who has completed high school education can read this. And this is one of the, you have number of books, management, leadership books, manuals, which is not accessible to ordinary people. So one of the very purpose of it is what I call the socialization of knowledge. Socialization of skills require access to knowledge and access to skill. And that access, in the third chapter, they have said about effective communication, right? So, effective communication, it's easy to say, but difficult to practice. That is, chapter 4 is about effective communication. And this book is an example of effective communication. Because it has more than 10 pages of very good references, but they have not cluttered it with that. Sometimes what you happened is to show your scholarship or academic posturing, you just fill it with the references every page. So it hinders the readability. Now comes to the book. Actually, I had a quick reading today, couple of hours only, I took 2-3 hours, partly because I'm familiar with the topic. This book has sort of, let us say, 3 parts. The first part is about the self in relation to the society. Issues of self-awareness. And that is, this self-awareness is the fundamental thing for leadership, socialization, and this is, we talk about self-awareness, sometimes that is the least available thing. And many people are not really aware about it. And self-awareness leads to self-reflection. Then this, self in relation to the society is the second thing is empathy. And there is a very detailed aspect of empathy. I will have critical feedback later on. I would also say what are the things missing links. But empathy, what does it mean, empathy? The volunteerism, how do you see yourself in relation to others? How do you put yourself in the shoes of others? All those things are very well said. And then you come to the society part of it. You in relation to how do you do an interpersonal relationship. Actually, that's the fundamental of not only interpersonal relationship, but fundamental in any institutional setting, right from the family to school to office to the big leadership to the politics. Interpersonal relationship is, if you cannot have interpersonal relationship, you can't be a leader. Critical thinking. This also has a lot of connecting with the thinking process. Critical thinking, creative thinking, problem solving, decision making. All these things are very, very important thought processes. So one is you in relation to others, interpersonal relationship, effective communication. Second part of this book is about deeply psychological, but also the study of how do you do critical thinking. What are the elements of problem solving? And in this, I have noticed that they use different kind of psychological sort of framework in this all these aspects of decision making. They have used a lot of leadership management strategies. From chapter 10 onwards, it is to do with what we call it emotional intelligence. And emotional intelligence, as you usually say EQ, is sometimes very less in many people. That is, how do you coping up with the resilience? How do you deal with adversity? How do you manage criticism? How do you deal with emotional turmoil? And how do you cope up with stress? And the last part of it is about training methodology. How do you do training, learning, designing a program, and references. So, 3 parts. The first part about you in relation to others. Second part about it, the thought process of solving a problem, your attitude, your behavior, all those things. And the last part of it is about the emotional intelligence. What struck me again was, in this they have used different kinds of methodological approach, like management approach, like SWOT analysis in relation to the person. They have used it very well. Team building. Another very important part I liked about it is, and actually the most important aspects about emotional intelligence is, how do you manage anger? Anger management. Same thing, leadership. There is a whole section on team building. And something which I am very familiar with is this whole thing which yesterday I was explaining to my daughter, the same thing called Bloom's taxonomy. What is knowledge? What is comprehension? How do you apply it, analyze it, synthesize it, and how do you evaluate? That's a very well-known methodological framework. So the best thing is, what I liked about it is, they have used the World Health Organization's taxonomy, UNICEF taxonomy, more or less things from across the world and spectrum. So overall, I found this is an extremely useful book. For example, 7 steps of problem solving model. This is something which every manager, I was thinking that, last 1 month, Anil and all of us were training around 20,000 people of a party at a grassroots level. And that's when we realized how much knowledge and attitude gaps are there within the political parties. Because there is no investment of nurturing leadership. Earlier political parties also had all these leadership, nurturing spaces. Actually, we don't have that. And, then let me share few thoughts. And I was just talking about why is it that, these are, it's psychosocial, but it's deeply about the socialization process of human being. How do you socialize? Now, Kerala has been a cosmopolitan society in true sense. Why I'm saying it, I travel all over the world. Sri Lanka is similar, but even Sri Lanka is very different. Our neighborhood is cosmopolitan in terms of caste, creed, religion, even class. And our public education used to be, in 1970s, many of us probably grew up in 1970s or early 1980s, etc. The public education was true socialization. You know, in your class and school, people across the spectrum was there. Across caste and creed were there. And the fertility rate was slightly high. So even in your family, there were 2-3 siblings. Now, once you come to the 90s, the fertility rate has decreased, naturally, because of social issues. But our cosmopolitan character has decreased. The schools from the same neighborhood in my village, people do not know each other. People simply do not know each other because they go to different schools. There the socialization process is very much inward looking. Within the family, within the caste, within the same religious framework. They simply do not talk to others. So you have created islands within the households. That is one. Second, our families have moved from a joint family culture. Like we know, in my childhood, all cousins used to be together in some houses. So 10, 15, we play. And these were all the real socialization skills which you really got. When you are, your parents are angry, you go and talk to your siblings or your cousins. So there was a stress management framework also was in our society and socialization. At the moment what's happening is we moved from a joint family as a culture, because people, their communications, culture. We moved to islands of excellence and aspirations. Every family has become an island. You go to, in my childhood, we used to go and, the thatched roofs, it was with the coconut leaves. We used to help people to do that. Everyone in the neighborhood participated in a marriage, because you cook. Now, all of us go to one of those air-conditioned places, we pose for a photo and we disappear. We don't even, because we are all very busy, we don't even say, hi, how are you, even when we meet it. As a result of that, there is a lack of mutual trust in our society. In our society, there is a trust deficit. And that trust deficit get exemplified in the social media. Because you don't talk to people. Second aspect about it is we moved from a joint family to a nuclear family to a post-nuclear family. Now people like me say we are a WhatsApp family. Right? My son is in Berlin, my kids are there. So you all communicate through WhatsApp. And as a result of this, your real communication in human flesh doesn't happen. Hence, life skill has become so fundamental because of your what you call lopsided socialization in the society and the schools. Yeah? Schools are gated communities. I had to change my kids from Trivandrum International School, not because the school is bad, because it's a gated community. There is less, space for socialization. And hence, this book is very, very important. I spent 1 hour with my sort of teenage daughter yesterday talking about some of these things. Why it is important to self-reflect. Now, earlier, these things naturally happened because what happened is the socialization, nobody taught me these things. Right? Nobody taught me. My library was a socialization, my school was a socialization, my playground was a socialization, my politics was a socialization. You become a natural leader, then you know how to do it. Actually, the pre-degree place, we all became politicized during that time. Because you read, debate. Now in our Kerala society, India, this is an invaluable asset to every school, every children. A book like this should be given. Number 2, I think in the government training, For example, Institute of Management and Governance, IMG, a book like this should be given to every, officer to understand what is the basis of it. So let me conclude by saying this. This is an excellent book, 178 pages of skills, perspectives, knowledge and training. And the last but not the least, I would have preferred some nice case studies in this. Case studies would have been very, very useful, because in a training manual, you have tips and skills, looking at pointers. A case study would have given a critical understanding of this. Second thing, when you revise the second part, one of the most important things I learned in my work, as I, going and see multicultural communication. It's so important. For example, I always say, when I went to Vietnam for the first time, I was the international director of an organization. I went to Vietnam and my country director received me, etc. So everybody, took me for lunch. When I came to the office, everyone was snoring. I was, my usual self got really, what is this? This is an international office where hundreds of staff are working and everyone is, when I got into the office, people are snoring. I said, what's happening here? So he said, sir, this is the culture. In, Vietnam, siesta is a must. It's a part of the culture. Everybody comes to the office with a little bit of a mat and they come early, 8:30 they come early, they need that half an hour. And the second thing is, in Vietnam, never ever go to a government office between 1:30 to 3 o'clock. That's sure way of, because that is a multicultural stuff. The second thing I learned in Vietnam is, when you go to a government officer, Politburo member or a minister, they listen to you and say, yes, yes, yes. And then you say, oh, these guys agree with you, everything what you say. That means, yes, I listen to you. Doesn't mean, yes, I agree. So these things are very important, and this is a very important thing when our IT people go. How do you work in an international culture? There are some people like Indians, Filipinos, they will speak non-stop. Non-stop. And, Japanese will keep quiet. So the point about it is, these things are also important in the life skill. As our children and our young people are more globalized than ever. So I would say, please add multicultural communications, multicultural attitudes. These are very, very different. And how do you really understand the language, everything? And to sum up, saying that it all leads to ABC, attitude, behavior and change. And we are 80% of attitude. I always say, in a book which I am writing on my leadership experience, I've been writing on social media on this, I always say LQ, leadership quotient, is equivalent to IQ, you have to be intelligent, your logical thinking. EQ is your emotional intelligence. NQ, your network intelligence, how do you connect with your network intelligence. And CQ is your communicative and creative intelligence. These are what makes LQ. If all these things, when it comes to in harmony, then you become an effective leader. And this is also a book which shows the way how can you be not only an effective human being, but also an effective leader. Thank you very much for this excellent book. And I recommend all of you to read this book. It's worth it.
Thank you, Mr. John Samuel, for introducing the book. Friends, now it is the time for the release of the book. We have purposefully invited Sri P.G. Thompson sir to release this book. Dear friends, I first met Sri Gigi Thompson sir in 1988 when he joined. When he joined as district collector Palghar, where I also joined the same time as the district youth coordinator of Nehru Yuva Kendra in Palghar. I joined a little early. I joined in March. Sir came during August. Even though he has been posted early, he came little late. You know, I joined Nehru Yuva Kendra as a fresher, but he joined service in 1980 as an IAS officer. Before he joined as a district collector, he has proved his mettle as an able administrator, a tremendous organizer, as a narrator, a writer, and everything within the 8 years of service. And he is the person who conducted the national games for the first time in Trivandrum in Kerala. And before joining, he has done a lot of innovative projects as a sub-collector and director youth affairs and sports and in several other capacities. And I had the opportunity to work with the sir for 3 years in Palghar district. The numerous projects which he has taken up and the leadership role he has took, and that especially, at that time I am not knowing about the life skills and all. I just joined as a fresher and he as a district collector of the district collector in 1980 is not like the district collector in 2020. It's a lot of difference, just like a goat and an elephant. That kind of difference is there in terms of their power and other facilities and other things. And what I want to tell you is that in life skills we used to analyze personalities to understand in deep what is meant by life skills and all. And Gigi Thompson is a right kind of a personality which we can analyze thoroughly to understand what are the core life skills a person should have. Because in 88 when he was a collector there, the first thing he done is forming a team. He has identified certain officers and non-officials also, and made them as a team. And whenever he want to do something, he call everybody and sit late hours in his residence and discuss those things and convince the people and took it forward. Like that, several new ideas, new programs, new projects has been taken that way in Palghar district at that time. One example only I will tell you now, that after he became the chief secretary in Kerala also, he tried to implement it. That is a Jalanidhi program. Even the project in Kerala, even now it is called Jalanidhi. But at that time there is a technological mission, water mission was there in Palghar. First thing what he has done is he told the technology mission director to first identify the ponds in the district. How many ponds are there in the district? And they have identified within 3 to 6 months, they made a comprehensive report, more than 2,000 ponds in the government sector, revenue land, and around 2,800 in the private sector they have identified. And it has not stopped with identification. Then the effort was to renovate each and every pond with the people's participation. It is after years that we are talking about people's participation, but in 1988 he has done it in Palghar district in people's participation in renovating those ponds. And I would say that the first opportunity I has got to renovate it. Because Nehru Yuva Kendra has been asked to do one, and we have done the pond, one pond we have took in Mangalam in Alathur district, in Anjumurthy Mangalam, where it's a lady, we used to call her Mami, took the responsibility, and their pond, their temple pond they have renovated. Even now if you go, you can see, not even a single stone has gone away from that. Collector has given something around 1.1 lakh rupee for renovating. They have mobilized other money from their own resources, something around 4 lakh rupee they spent, and they renovated that pond with total public participation. And then In Shegaripuram, why I remember Shegaripuram is that, Shegaripuram is in the heart of Palga district. It's a Tamil Brahmins colony. There is another pond was there. With the collector's motivation, the Iyengars in that places renovated that pond. Immediately after that, our collector has got chicken pox at that time. Jesus has got chicken pox at that time. And you know what happened at that time? The entire families in Shegaripuram, they gone to the temple and they prayed for him and they brought the prasadam from the temple while he was in the house. When nobody was ready to go there, they came and they prayed in the house also. Why I told is that this is all thing he has done because of his, public participation, mobilization, team building, team management, communication, which we are talking now in life skills, interpersonal relationship, which we are talking in life skills, empathy, which we are talking in life skills. But through all these things, he has, really done it. And he was a very good writer also. He has written two very interesting books. One book is in Malayalam, it is Nothing Official. It is in Malayalam, it is available in DC Books, you can have it. It is a satire. It's basically some events which he has come across during his, work. It is published, I think, in 2003 or 4 he published that book. It's some kind of anecdotes. If you go through that, you can have, in that also you can have a lot of elements of life skill in this. I have used the stories in that when I conduct a training program in life skills in several places. And recently he has written another book, Sing After the Storm. Sing After the Storm. This is published recently only. That book is, he has written after he has got a very, what I can say, he has got a very strong heart attack. He was in a singing stage, and after that he come out from that illness, and from that experience he has written a book on that. I have not read completely, I have not gone through the book, but I have got the synopsis, I have gone through the synopsis. In this it is telling that it is written a kind of a dialogue with a monk. Mostly a spiritualism is there in it, but in the spiritual element itself, there is a lot of, innovative ideas, thinking, and, discussions going on, dialogue happening with the monk, where a lot of life and life skills are being discussed in that also. So what I want to tell is that, when he is now going to talk to us, when he is going to talk on life skills to us after reading the structured literature on life skills, what he has written in his 2 books is really life skills which we used to, the life skills trainers used to tell to the people how you have to understand yourself, and then how you have to understand the other person, how you are going to have interpersonal communication, and how you have to build your team and things like that. He has already written in that. So with that experience he can really talk to us, and he was the Director General of SAI in 2012 to 2014. He was SAI Director General, and the place where we are sitting now, this golf club, we are able to sit here now because at that time he was the Director General of SAI. Why I say that? At that time you might have those people, you might have recollect that there was a lot of problem going on regarding the ownership of whose this asset belongs to. This golf club belongs to whom? Somebody say it is government, somebody say it is private, somebody say it is Rajas, somebody said it is golf club people and things. But now it is ours. It is ours means it is government, it is Sports Authority of India, and it is golf club. Everybody, a tripartite things are there, and Sir has taken the leadership in setting up a SAI unit here, and the tubs are being renovated, and it is belongs to us. Here also, if you go through the life skills, that a lot of life skills has gone into that, lot of thinking gone into that, got lot of problem solving and decision making skills gone into that, lot of negotiation skills gone into that, and that is how this golf club is remaining as a public property. By telling this, I request you to please come and have your words.
Dr. Radhakrishnan Nair, my dear friend and esteemed colleague, Dr. Elangovan, Principal Secretary, Department of Industries, Sri John Samuel, I would rather call him Jez Adur, and dear friends, I'm extremely happy to be here this evening. I used to love books. I'm a lover of books, and therefore any function relating to a book release is always welcome. This is all the more important for me because the book Life Skills, A Ready Reckoner is edited by my dear friend Dr. Radhakrishnan Nair along with Sunita Ranjan, Gauri, Hardika and Divya Santhanam. You would have already heard about my association with Dr. Radhakrishnan Nair. 33 years ago, when I became the district collector of Palghat, I met Dr. Radhakrishnan in his capacity as the district coordinator of Nehru Yuva Kendra. I don't want to talk about my experiences as district collector. All that I need to say is this. If we were able to achieve something in Palghat in the way of renovating public ponds and rejuvenating rivers and other sources of water, it was only because of the sincerity and hard work shown by people like Dr. Radhakrishnan. He was always cheerful, and I can't forget a day when he did not smile at me. And whenever I used to give some tough task, he used to very happily accept it, and he will carry it out to the best of his ability without any murmur. You know, friends, we have just talked about team building. John Samuel did mention about it. Team building is one of the very important skills which you require to be successful. I, as an IAS officer, was trained in the National Academy of Administration in Missouri. Dr. Elangovan was also trained there. And then in the course of our career, we were sent to different training institutes in the country and abroad. Like we had the opportunity of undergoing some training in IIM Ahmedabad. I went to University of Birmingham, and when I was Director of Power, I was sent to University of Florida. And so we had this opportunity of going all over the country and abroad for undergoing training. Of course, we were taught many management concepts, and we were trained rigorously. But of all the concepts which I learned, I would still rate the best management concept which I learned was not from any of these institutes, but from the nursery school where I studied in Trivandrum. My mother was a teacher in a girls' high school called Cotton Hill Girls High School in Trivandrum. and she put me in the nursery school which was attached to the high school. So it is called the Parithikunna. In Malayalam it is called Parithikunna. So I, as a nursery kid, used to recite the nursery rhymes, and my teacher always used to give me this opportunity of reciting it in front of others. Maybe because I studied it a little fast, and maybe because of that reason. Anyway, I learned number of nursery rhymes, and I used to recite it very smartly without knowing what is the meaning of all. One of the nursery rhymes was about a king who lost a battle. You know, the story goes like this. Once upon a time, there was a king. He was known for his valor. He lost the battle, which he should not have. And after the battle was lost, some sort of post-mortem took place. He called all his ministers and asked them, what is the reason? Why did I fail? Why did I lose the battle? So the chief advisor told the king that, we lost the battle because we didn't have a good soldier. The king did not accept that argument. He said, how can that be? We have plenty of soldiers, and how is that we lost the battle for want of a soldier? He said, we had a soldier, but the soldier did not have a horse. So again, king did not agree. He said, we have got plenty of horses in our in the backyard, and how is that we lose the battle for want of a horse? So then the advisor said, we had a horse, but we didn't have a horseshoe. Again, the king did not accept it. He said, it's ridiculous. How can you lose the battle for want of a horseshoe? Then the advisor said, O king, we did have a horseshoe, but it did not have a nail. And because there was no nail, the horseshoe did not fit into the horse's leg, and because of that the horse could not run or gallop, and because of that the soldier could not fight, and because of that the battle was lost. So the nursery rhyme goes like this: the battle was lost for want of a soldier, the soldier was lost for want of a horse, the horse was lost for want of a horseshoe, and the horseshoe was lost for want of a nail, and the battle was lost for want of a horseshoe nail. So as a nursery kid, I used to recite this, and I never understood the meaning of it. But when I became an IAS officer, and when I was interested with many responsibilities, I started practicing this. For me, every nail is important. I will not disregard anyone in my team. And because of that, I could build a very good team wherever I went. And because of that good team, we always succeeded. So if I have achieved any success in the course of my career spanning 36, 38 years, it is all because of this. The team which you build is the most important aspect of success. Unless you have a team, you may be a very bright young IAS officer, you may have so many good qualities, but unless you build a team, unless you work together, then it is impossible to achieve success. So whoever succeeds, you can always find that he will be a good leader. So I don't have to talk about all the leadership qualities which you require, but I always felt that a good leader can bring in change only if he has a vision, he should have determination, and he should also know what to do next. unless all these three important features figure in, aspects figure in, it will not be possible to bring in a change. Friends, in this book, Dr. John Samuel has very beautifully summarized the features of this book. This is, as the book, the title itself says, it's a ready reckoner. I agree with this. It is a ready reckoner. There are some very important life skills which we need to fine tune. I'm sure all of us sitting here, or all of us who are listening to us, they all have life skills. We all have various skills, in various capacities, in various degrees. But then to know what is the skill that we have, what is your core competence, this is something which we need to analyze carefully. Of course, in management jargon, we say we must conduct a SWOT analysis. What are your strengths? What are your weaknesses? What are the opportunities? What are the threats? This is fine. But then it is easier said than done. See, one aspect, one skill which all of us should have is self-awareness. And this is the most difficult skill. All of us have this self-esteem. We know what we are. We know what others think about us. We have this self-esteem, or we have this what you call Radhakrishnan. You have mentioned your self. Yeah, and he talks about the perceived self, how person sees self and others see them, and then the real self, how a person really is, and the ideal self, how person would like to be. Now this self-awareness is something which is very, very difficult. Of course, he did mention about a book which I wrote. This is a book. This is not. I mean, he made a minor mistake. It is Singing After the Storm, not Singing After the Storm. This is my life experience, which I have summarized in 90 pages or so. So here, you would have all heard about Aham Brahmasmi. And this is one of the Mahavakya in the great utterances from the Upanishads. The other Mahavakya is like Tattvamasi, which means that you are, or Ishavasya Midam Sarvam, all that is enveloped by God. So these are all very famous Mahavakyas. Aham Brahmasmi means I am Brahman, or less literally, I am divine. This encapsulates the relationship between our singular selves and the ultimate divine reality of the cosmos. The crown of the statement is that we are the same. The universe is us, not vice versa. Our life's journey is to understand our inner selves. We realize moksha when we reveal the ultimate reality that is residing in us. And knowing our inner self is the biggest challenge. Of course, friends, you must have read about Kathopanishads. I am quite familiar with the story of Nachiketa and King Yama. Nachiketa, as a teenager, I don't want to tell the whole story. The crux of the story is this: he went to meet Yama. And of course, Yama was not there. And by the time he returned, it was too late. But then Yama apologized to the young Brahmin and said that you ask for any boon, I will grant it. So he asked for 3 boons. One was, of course, that he asked for the welfare of his own father. That was the first boon, which Yama readily granted. Second, Nachiketa wanted to know how one could reach heaven where there is no sorrow, no old age, or no death. The Lord of Death gave all the details about a particular sacrifice, the performance of which would take you to the heaven. And finally, Nachiketa wanted to know what happens to a man after death. Though initially Yama tried to dissuade him, he said, no, you don't ask about it. But the young Nachiketa was very insistent, and finally Yama had to tell him what happens to a person after his death. The Yama said, the all-knowing self was never born, nor would it die. Beyond cause and effect, the self is eternal and immutable. When the body dies, the self does not die. If the slayer believes that he can kill, or the slain believes that he can be killed, neither knows the truth. The eternal self slays not, nor is it ever slain. This is what Yama told him. In short, death occurs only to our physical body. The self is immutable and eternal. The ultimate test is to know thyself. When you achieve that, all the knots that strangle the heart are loosened, and the mortal becomes immortal. Now, this is what we learn from Kathopanishad. Now, if you turn to Old Testament, the Bible, Old Testament of the Bible, God says, especially in the book of Isaiah, God says, I am He, I am the first and I am the last. The Hebrew word used here is Anihu, meaning I am He. The unity between Him and me is the first and I is the last. To become a true Christian, one needs to become an Anihu. I should become He. So this is what the Old Testament teaches us. Now friends, this is something which is very, very, interesting. We need to contemplate on this. We need to understand this. How is it possible for us to become He? And how is that we emphasize, we find the real meaning of our inner selves. This is a skill which is very difficult to achieve. That's why I said initially, it is easier said than done. Now, we need to be aware of ourselves. We need to find our inner selves to excel in our life. That is in another skill which of course he has given one chapter is about that, empathy. This is again another skill which all of us should have, because empathy means getting into someone else's shoes. And then you see, when a petitioner comes to me as collector or as chief secretary, somebody comes to me, I need to be empathetic. I can be very well sympathetic, but empathetic is different. I suddenly should know what the petitioner would like the officer to do to him. And I am getting into his shoes, and then I am giving him the answer. I give you one example from my own life. Exactly 5 years ago, in the month of May 2015, not 6 years, there was a heavy downpour in Trivandrum, and the entire city was flooded. And suddenly I got a call from an anonymous caller. I was traveling in my car, the road was flooded, we couldn't move one step forward. So suddenly then I got a call from an anonymous person, and he just rang me up and he vented his frustration on me. He was saying in Malayalam, I still don't know who the person is. He has never revealed his name to me. I just picked up the phone. He said, "Sare, ഞങ്ങൾ ഇവിടെ കിഴക്കേക്കോട്ടയിൽ നിൽക്കുകയാണ്. കഴുത്തറ്റം വെള്ളമാണ്. ചുറ്റും ഇവിടെ അമേധ്യം ഒഴുകി നടക്കുന്നു. ചത്ത എലികൾ ഒഴുകി നടക്കുന്നു. പാറ്റകൾ കൂട്ടമായിട്ട് വന്ന് ഞങ്ങളെ ആക്രമിക്കുന്നു. അടുത്ത് നിൽക്കുന്ന ഒരു സ്ത്രീ ഛർദ്ദിച്ച് വെള്ളത്തിൽ വീഴുന്നു. അവരെ എടുക്കാനായിട്ട് ഞങ്ങൾ ശ്രമിക്കും, ഞങ്ങളും ഛർദ്ദിക്കുന്നു. ഇത് എന്ത് ജീവിതമാണ്, നരക തുല്യമാണ് ജീവിതം. ഇതിനാണോ തന്നെയൊക്കെ അവിടെ ചീഫ് സെക്രട്ടറി ആയിട്ട് ശമ്പളം തന്ന് ഇരുത്തിയിരിക്കുന്നത് എന്ന് ചോദിച്ചു. ഇത് ഞാൻ കേട്ടപ്പോൾ ഞാൻ ആദ്യം ഒന്ന് ഞെട്ടി. എൻ്റെ ദൈവമേ, ഞാൻ വന്നിട്ട് അധികം നാളായില്ല, അപ്പം വന്ന് കയറിയതേ ഉള്ളൂ. അപ്പോഴേക്കും ഇതാണ് കേരളത്തിലെ ഞാൻ ഡൽഹിയിലായിരുന്നു ജോലി ചെയ്തുകൊണ്ടിരുന്നത്, ഇങ്ങനെയാണ് ഇവിടുത്തെ നാട്ടുകാരെ റെസ്പോണ്ട് ചെയ്യുന്നതെന്ന് വെച്ചാൽ ബുദ്ധിമുട്ടാവുമല്ലോ എന്നൊക്കെ മനസ്സിൽ വിചാരിച്ചു. പിന്നെ ഞാൻ വിചാരിച്ചു, പക്ഷേ ഞാനാണ് കിഴക്കേക്കോട്ടയിൽ നിൽക്കുന്നതെങ്കിൽ ഞാനും ഇത് തന്നെ പറയുമായിരുന്നു. നമ്മളവിടെ നിൽക്കുമ്പോൾ കഴുത്തറ്റം വെള്ളമാണെങ്കിൽ ഇതല്ലാതെ പിന്നെ എന്താ പറയുക? അപ്പം ഞാൻ അയാളോട് പറഞ്ഞു, നിങ്ങൾ എന്നോട് എന്തിനാണ് ചൂടാവുന്നത്, നിങ്ങൾ ആ MLA-യോടോ വല്ല ഒന്ന് പറഞ്ഞുകൂടെ എന്ന് ചോദിച്ചു. അപ്പോൾ അയാൾ MLA കുറേ ചീത്ത പറഞ്ഞു. അപ്പോൾ എനിക്ക് വലിയ സമാധാനമായി, അയാൾക്ക് വകതിരിവുണ്ട്. അപ്പോൾ സന്തോഷമായി. അപ്പം ഞാൻ പറഞ്ഞു, നോക്കൂ സ്നേഹിത, ഞാൻ വന്ന് ചാർജ് എടുത്തിട്ട് 1 മാസമേ ആയുള്ളൂ, അപ്പം നിങ്ങൾ ഇതൊക്കെ പറയുന്നു, ഞാൻ നോക്കട്ടെ എന്തെങ്കിലും ചെയ്യാൻ പറ്റുമോ നോക്കട്ടെ എന്ന് പറഞ്ഞു. അപ്പോൾ ദെൻ ഹി സെഡ്, ഓ സാറേ ക്ഷമിക്കണം, ഞാൻ എൻ്റെ ദേഷ്യം കൊണ്ട് പറഞ്ഞു പോയതാണ് സാർ, അത്രയ്ക്ക് ദുരിതമാണ് ഇവിടെ സാർ, ഇതൊന്ന് എന്തെങ്കിലും ഒന്ന് ചെയ്യണം, ഞങ്ങൾക്ക് വലിയ പ്രതീക്ഷയാണ് എന്ന് പറഞ്ഞു. പിറ്റേ ദിവസം I went to my office, called my officers and decided, there's no need to talk. I said, come, let's go. We all went to Kerkekota East Fort and then saw with our own eyes what was happening to the city of Trivandrum. എല്ലായിടത്തും വെള്ളക്കെട്ട്, എങ്ങോട്ടും പോകാൻ പറ്റുന്നില്ല. എന്താ ഒരു നിങ്ങൾക്കറിയാമല്ലോ ഇവിടുത്തെ സ്ഥിതി എന്താണെന്ന്. നമ്മളിവിടുന്ന് മോഡൽ സ്കൂളിൻ്റെ പിന്നുള്ള സ്ഥലത്തിൻ്റെ പേരെന്താ, ചെങ്കൽച്ചൂളയുടെ അവിടെ നിന്ന് ആണ് വെള്ളക്കെട്ട് നടന്ന് അങ്ങോട്ട് തമ്പാനൂർ മുഴുവനും വെള്ളത്തിനടിയിൽ. റെയിൽവേ സ്റ്റേഷൻ, ട്രെയിനുകൾ നീങ്ങുന്നില്ല, ബസ്സുകൾ നീങ്ങുന്നില്ല. എന്താ കാര്യം? കാരണം നമുക്ക് ഡ്രെയിനേജ് എന്നൊരു സാധനം ഇല്ല ഇവിടെ. എവറി അതർ സിറ്റി ഷുഡ് ഹാവ് എ സ്യൂവേജ് മാപ്പ്. അത് ട്രിവാൻഡ്രത്തിനില്ല. പിറ്റേ ദിവസം എഞ്ചിനീയർമാരെയൊക്കെ വിളിച്ചിട്ട് ചോദിച്ചപ്പോൾ പറയുകയാണ്, സാറേ ഇവിടെ അങ്ങനെ ഒരു മാപ്പൊന്നും ഇല്ല. അപ്പോൾ ഞാൻ ചോദിച്ചപ്പോൾ എല്ലാ വർഷവും നിങ്ങൾ പണം ചെലവഴിക്കുന്നുണ്ടല്ലോ, അത് ഞങ്ങൾ തരും, ഞങ്ങൾ എന്തെങ്കിലുമൊക്കെ ഇവിടെ കാട്ടിക്കൂട്ടും. അത് ഒരു പ്ലാനും ഇല്ലാതെയാണ് ചെയ്യുന്നത്. അത് കഴിഞ്ഞ് ഞങ്ങൾ നോക്കുന്ന സമയത്ത് ചില തോടിൽ പോയി നോക്കുമ്പോൾ അവിടെ കൂടി പല പല പൈപ്പുകളാണ് പോകുന്നത്. അപ്പോൾ ചോദിക്കുമ്പോൾ പറയും, ഇത് സാറേ ഇത് വാട്ടർ അതോറിറ്റിയുടെ പൈപ്പാണ്, ഇത് സിവേജ് ആണെന്നാണ് തോന്നുന്നത്. പിന്നെ ഒരാൾ തട്ടി നോക്കിയിട്ട് പറയും, അല്ലല്ല ഇത് ശുദ്ധജലം കൊണ്ടുപോകുന്ന പൈപ്പാണ്. എന്താ ശുദ്ധജലം കൊണ്ടുപോകുന്ന പൈപ്പും സിവേജ് കൊണ്ടുപോകുന്ന പൈപ്പും തോളോട് തോൾ ഒരുമയാണ് പോകുന്നത്. ഇതൊന്നും പൊട്ടിയിരുന്നാലുള്ള അവസ്ഥ എന്താണ്? ശരിക്കും ദൈവം തമ്പുരാൻ്റെ വലിയ അനുഗ്രഹം കൊണ്ടാണ് നമ്മളൊക്കെ ഇങ്ങനെ സുഖമായിട്ട് ജീവിച്ചിരിക്കുന്നത്. അല്ലെങ്കിൽ നമ്മളൊക്കെ എന്നേ തട്ടിപ്പോകേണ്ടതായിരുന്നു. കാരണം ഈ വെള്ളമാണല്ലേ നമ്മൾ കുടിക്കുന്നത്. അപ്പം ഇങ്ങനെ യാതൊരു പ്ലാനിങ്ങും ഇല്ല. ഫൈനലി ഐ ഹാഡ് ടു ഗോ ടു ദ ആർക്കൈവ്സ് ഡിപ്പാർട്ട്മെൻറ്റ് ആൻഡ് ടേക്ക് ഔട്ട് ദി sewage map of Trivandrum prepared by the then Maharaja of Travancore, or rather his Sir C.P. Ramaswamy Iyer. അദ്ദേഹം പ്രിപ്പയർ ചെയ്ത 1935 ആർക്കൈവ്സ് ഡിപ്പാർട്ട്മെൻറ്റ് കണ്ടെടുത്തിയ മാപ്പ് എടുത്ത് നോക്കിയിട്ടാണ് പിന്നെ നമ്മൾ ഓരോന്നും ഐഡൻറ്റിഫൈ ചെയ്തത്. ഇങ്ങനെയാണ് ഇത് ചെയ്യുന്നത്. അപ്പം ഞാനിത് പറഞ്ഞതിൻ്റെ കാരണം ഇത് ചെയ്യുമ്പോഴും വാസ്തവത്തിൽ there are officers, my own colleagues, who used to criticize me, saying that is it the job of a chief secretary to go around and start locating all this? You need to sit in your office and give orders, make others work. That is your job. So I don't know. I don't subscribe to that view. If it is required for the chief secretary to go to the field and make direct inspection, he should definitely do it, and he should say that she has to carry this out. It's not enough that he remains in the comfort of his air-conditioned room, sit in a swiveling chair and pass orders. It is definitely required to go to the place where the problem occurs and find out the root cause and try to eliminate this. This requires empathy. So empathy is one quality, one skill that each one of us should develop. This is something which all of us can do. So I will go on talking like this and I will be taking away all of your precious time. Friends, this book talks about the skills which all of us should have to succeed in life, whether it is personal life or it is official life. So I consider this Reddy Deckaner as a very valuable book, and I must congratulate all the editors, especially Dr. Radhakrishnan Nair, Sunita, Gauri and Divya for editing this book so beautifully. As Sri John Samuel mentioned at the very beginning, this is all because of the experience which they have gained. It's very easy to write a book. You know, if you spend 3 months, you sit in the, go to a lonely place, you can always write a book. It's not difficult. But then you must draw the lessons from your experience and then come out with conclusions or come out with solutions. So this is what the editors have done, and that is what has made this book very, very valuable. I congratulate all the editors, and with all your permission, I declare that this book is released.
Thank you very much, sir, for your kind words. Friends, now Dr. Ilangovan, who has received the first copy of this book, will address us. Before that, I will introduce him to you, those who are online and those who are sitting in front of him. And friends, I met him in 1994 when he joined Palghat as the sub-collector. And from that time onwards, till today, we are associated in various ways, various projects, various discussions and developing ideas, and he is always a motivating person for me to doing so many things. When I have some doubts whether I have to do that or not, I used to go to him and take his counsel, and he is very good in giving counseling also. He is a doctor not only by having his PhD, he is a doctor by profession also. He is a very good orthopedician, and he is an MS in orthopedics, who is getting a lot of money than an IAS officer was getting before he joined in civil service. and I don't know why he joined civil service after leaving his plum post as a MS in orthopedician, and then he done his PhD in IIT Chennai in public health and hospital administration. And friends, why I love him very much is because in 1998 when he was collector in Palghat district, Attapadi, you might have heard about Attapadi. Attapadi is in the limelight because of certain deaths which happened at that time in the tribal hamlets, which especially in the very interior tribal hamlets in Sholayur Panchayat area. Because somebody says that it is poverty death, somebody is malnutrition. Anyway, whatever the reason, people are dying very seriously, and there is a lot of child mortality, mother mortality, a lot of issues were there. And he, as I earlier told, district collector, when Gigi sir was there, he used to call people to find solution. He also have that character, and he called people to discuss, and he had discussed with us also. And that time in Attapadi, what we have done is, we identified tribal youths. At that time there was a tribal volunteer scheme. From that tribal volunteers, those who passed SSLC and +2 at that point of time, we collected 45 of them, 45 tribal youth, and trained them intensively in health, in reproductive sexual health and related thing. At that time, we had these elements of life skill also was there. How he designed the training, that is the beauty of the success of the program. First 7 days, we given them intensive training in a forest dormitory in Mukali. Then 7 days, we sent it to them in Agali hospital. Then after 7 days, brought them back. Then 7 days, again refresher training. Then send them to Taluk hospital. Then brought them back for 7 day in-house training. Then send it to them district hospital. You see, these are all tribal children that we have done. And then we made the entire tribal hamlets into clusters and deployed these tribal youths, one boy and one girl in that cluster, and put them in those hamlets to work with the people. Within 2 years, I will tell you, the project worked for 2 years. within the 2 years, there was no child mortality and mother mortality in entire Attapadi. And after that, during those time and even after 2-3 years also, there was no this poverty, death or anything at that point of time. That is training the tribal youth and putting them in their own hamlets for the work. And I would say after that, even state government has launched this tribal health project. But unfortunate part was that the tribal element was only in the title, not in the implementation. Because there was no tribal was involved in that activity, only some officers were posted for in the name of tribal health project. Whereas in Attapadi, it was the real tribals done, the tribal youth done the work. That was the beauty of it. Another major thing which Kunju Muhammad was after me, Kunju Muhammad was the youth coordinator of Palghat. By that time, our Elangovan sir was also there. We started another project called SEVAK, Self-Employed Workers Association, Kendra. That is, what is the idea is that, Palghat is known for SC population. The state in district in Kerala with the maximum SC population is Palghat district. And there is a lot of youth who has no employment among the scheduled caste population. Lot of ITI and polytechnic failed students were there. So what is the solution? So we discussed and we suggested collector that we can collect all these failed students, these SC failed students in IT and polytechnic, give them more training in skills, in multitasking in plumbing or in electrician or carpentry and things like that. And we done it. We done it for 6 months. Then they formed as a society, collector as chairman, coordinator as a, it's a convener, done it. And till now it is working, I would say. And he has given land and money to construct own building for Sevak. It has own building in Muttikulangara. Now I am told they are earning around 1 crore rupee per year. And every people are having even EPF and ESI accounts also. It has become institutionalized. In fact, these 2 projects I submitted to our UDF manifesto also. And it has come in 2 different names. These projects were there, in fact. It is a replicable project. It can be done anywhere because it is being done by the youth themselves. We are just making a trigger in that. We are just assembling them, motivating them and making them able to do it. And all these, new innovative projects we could have done only because of the support which Dr. Elangovan as district collector has done at that time. And even after that also I had never stopped my contact with him. We used to discuss a lot of things and even in writing this book I have taken a lot of ideas from him. And he as a researcher, he is also a very good writer, and now he is writing a Bible on hospital administration and public policy. He is writing a very interesting book, and shortly we can see the light of the day of that book also. And with these words, sir, I request you to kindly come and give you your words.
Respected J.G. Thompson, sir, Dr. Radhakrishnan Nair, Sri John Samuel, Sri Anil Kumar, and very distinguished invitees, ladies and gentlemen. This book releasing function, when Dr. Radhakrishnan told me, normally I don't go for book release functions because we find time during office hours. I normally avoid. I normally go only after office hours, if at all I go. But this, when he approached me saying that I've written basically a book on life skills, I was very keen to understand what exactly was the book. Without seeing the book also, I agreed, let us do it. And he said, 4 o'clock on Tuesday. I said, okay. Just before coming, in fact, I was telling J.G. sir that the CS called me and said, let us talk about COVID. So I had to rush back from here. So I will make my speech very brief and to the point. Now, I read a small book a long time back saying, it was written by a Harvard professor. He posed the problem saying that how do you measure success in life? We define success in so many ways. My definition may not be same as your definition. Yet he asked the question. This question actually came to his mind after he had his batchmate reunion after 40 years. After 40 years of the graduation from Harvard University, the batch decided that they should have a reunion. And they all met at a particular point and they said they had interaction. So he discusses basically his experience with his batchmates after 40 years of the college graduation. He says, see, some have died, some have become single, they become divorced, some has got serious illnesses, there are so many issues. He also posed another question saying, how many friends you have at the age of 70 as compared to how many friends you had at the age of 30. This is the second question he actually posed. How many friends? Yes, but how do you actually measure success in life? And how many friends you had over a period of time? Then he discusses these two things. That is the book. I don't want to spend more time on that. I'll explain to you very briefly what it is. The first question, how do you measure success in life? He says, the genuine purpose of life is happiness. The genuine purpose of life is happiness. If you are not happy, one can very safely conclude that you have not been successful in life. This is his interpretation. Now, how will you create happiness in yourself? Is it something which you can get from others? Everyone knows that success is self-generated and within yourself. That is where life skills comes very, very important. That is where the life skills are so important that they teach you how to be happy. To my mind, this book is like a parent. Parents these days don't teach students many things, the children many things. We fall between the stools. When you are a child, you go to the school, new atmosphere, we learn certain things, mainly academics. And then we go to college, then we graduate, we get employed, we get married. Nowhere ever we are taught about life skills. We don't have textbooks on life skills. Today's issues, today's problem in society all because we don't have life skills. We don't have empathy, so we got violence. We target people who are marginalized. We target women and children because we don't have empathy. Only if you have empathy on them, we will not target them, we will not actually make any violations. Today, life skill teaches what? I'll explain to you very simply. There is a very famous German psychologist called Edward de Bono. He wrote a number of books. In one book, he explains what is stress, how do you manage stress. He explains stress by means of two concentric circles, a larger circle and a smaller circle inside. He says the circle inside is what you have achieved, what is your accomplishment. And the circle outside is basically circle of aspirations or circle of expectations. If the gap between the circle of expectation and circle of achievement is larger, you have a larger area of disappointment in life. The only way where you can make these two circles lie very close to each other is either you increase your accomplishment, achieve as much as possible, or you reduce all your expectations in life. He says it is easy to have the larger circle becoming smaller. That is a genuine purpose of life. That is what he says about need and greed. So life skill is about becoming aware of your needs, not about your greed. Life skill is about how you interact with situations you face day in and day out. If you can bring the larger circle to very close to the inner circle, you don't have so much of stress. You don't have so much of disappointment. So life skill will teach you all these aspects like empathy, effective communications. Here Mr. Jan Swamel said a very important point about cultural value systems as life skills. When I was posted in the Embassy of India in Abu Dhabi, I was handling the charge of community affairs. All Indians in Abu Dhabi and UAE are looking at their welfare measures. I used to interact with all the top people there. Once I had a chance to go meet Abu Dhabi police chief. I wanted to go because I wanted to know, saying that what exactly is the problem. Because when I visited a prison, 18% of the population of the prisons are Indians. I have no method to meet how. Whereas my counterparts from the Embassy of France or other people, they had only one or two people. And the jail authorities will say, okay, this is the time for Embassy of France, this is the time for Embassy of India. Now, that France, that lady will come, she will meet one or two people, I had a discussion with that person for 45 minutes, and I will be given the same 45 minutes, saying you please talk. The list is 1,200 people. Where do I select? I was really confused, saying that why do so many people land up in jail in Abu Dhabi? So I called up the Abu Dhabi police chief and said I want to have a discussion. So he said please come. We went there. We had a talk. I asked the reason. Please tell me 3 reasons why Indians are being put in prison. And he was very happy that first time an Indian embassy person coming and asking him. He couldn't talk English, I couldn't talk Arabic, there was some interpreter. So there are 3 reasons I'll let you know. Indians, they wash car in the parking lot. So he put them in prison. I asked why, what do you mean, why should he put in prison? See the cultural values. He says the parking place is not a place for washing. We don't prepare the surface for water logging. Indians do this, so we put them in prison. Then what is the second reason? These people stand in the street corner and sell items, small things. It's not allowed in Abu Dhabi, not allowed in UAE. Every selling, buying is a commercial activity that has to be registered, it has to be digitized, it has to be recorded. Now here people come with something and they keep selling, so it's basically illogical, illegal. We catch them and arrest them. Third important is this, this is an Islamic country. Many people come here, they start drinking, let them drink at home, we don't object. But they drink home, outside and come, when they create nuisance, we catch them and I really felt ashamed. Now if you see from Indian perspective, these may not be real issues. But if you see from an Emirati perspective, the real issues, these are all beyond the law and therefore they land up in a sort of prisons. So the life skills should not only be restricted to geological orientation, a particular place. It has to be to different countries, different cultures, because today migration has become the norm. People migrate in order to get some economic advantage, which is not at all wrong. But when they do, they get totally upset, they're totally depressed, and many people commit suicide. I had this subject for about 2 years, and I knew what exactly is happening through the society. And I opened a free so-called walk-in center for the workers. And there are a lot of advocates in Dubai willing to give. We told them, please come, give free counseling for all expats who wanted to come. The reason was that these fellows had holidays only on Friday, and that is exactly the embassy was also closed. There is no way any Indian working in Abu Dhabi or Dubai could reach the embassy physically. So I convinced ambassadors and made a center outside the embassy. On Fridays we opened it in Bank Street in Dubai. There was a grand fund we did it. We opened the counseling centers. Now we opened the counseling center for the workers. who are actually jumping the visa conditions, who are actually absconders, how to help them, because the courts are Sharia court. We don't have more information about the court proceedings. So lawyers was doing a fantastic job. Huge appointment was fixed. Everybody came, everybody went. After a month or so, when I went and took a review, saying who exactly availed these all the businesses, you will not believe. It is not those semi-skilled and unskilled workers whom we thought are undergoing huge psychological issues. It's all literate, very well earning, white collar job people who came and took so-called counseling. Most of them related to marital disputes, marital discords. Why I am saying this story is, life skill is something which is so essential to manage one's personal life. Roles of husband and wife are changing. When additional income comes, your attitude becomes different. Your priorities change. When number of children in a family reduces, your attitude towards the child totally changes. The parenting itself totally changes. Today you have got children who are appeased, who are enticed with all kinds of things. He is the person who has the lowest emotional quotient. He will either become an autistic child or he will become a rebel in the society. Therefore, friends, life skill is a very large subject. It's a very relevant subject for today's world. The changes that are taking place in society today are happening at such a high speed when compared to, say, about 30 years. As again Mr. Samuel said, we have become WhatsApp families. The communications are totally broken down in families. We hardly speak, we speak through the gadgets. So what kind of lifestyles you require to have a cohesive, very affectionate family systems? And J.J. sir mentioned about so many examples of empathy. Empathy is such an important thing for an administrator. If you are not empathetic, you will never be an administrator, leave alone being a leader. Empathy today is lost. That is why in different parts of India you see so many violences against the women, so many things against the children. How do you explain? See, don't these people have conscience? And who has taught them and who has not taught them? Where is the parenting has gone? Where are the teachers have gone? Where are the moral teachings have gone? Who is teaching the moral stories today? There is nobody. That is where I thought the books like this certainly fill the gaps, will fill in the blanks. If anyone spends some time and goes through this book, I think there will be so much advantages, there will be so much benefited. Because this book is a distilled wisdom of 4 important and distinguished people. Dr. Radhakrishnan has actually led this, and I know him from his speech you would have seen. He, such a focused person he is, and he is a man with perseverance. I have seen this. So, any task he undertaken has to be good, and it has come out so exceedingly well. I was telling him the other day that this book should be, in fact I told the present Chief Secretary, I showed him the book. He said, Nalla book alle. I said, this book has to be translated into Malayalam. Communication is very important. Who are the people who are affected today by the life skills? It's all single child families. The poorer sections of family where both the parents go for work, children are left to themselves. And it is these kind of people that if we start educating them how to accommodate stress, how to handle stress, and how not to have a life with huge aspiration which you cannot achieve, a contented life. How do you have the interpersonal relationship? Interpersonal relationship has gone completely changed than from what it is, I would say, 20 years back. I don't want to go into each chapters. It has already been well discussed and described here. I thought this is an important book for the society. A book becomes relevant, or a book becomes important when it is relevant. This book is very important because it is very relevant today. Only thing is that this book has to be reached. This book has, the message in the book should reach different sections of the society. Therefore, the multitude of benefits the society can get is humongous benefits. No one has spoken about this. No one has spoken about anger management. at least to my knowledge. This book talks about anger management. They say in Sanskrit, when I speak to Ayurvedic people, they say, what is Rogam? Rogam is nothing but Krodham. Krodham is anger. And as a medical doctor, I can explain to you very beautifully how the anger disturbs your internal milieu, how the biochemistry in your body changes when you become angry, which is the root cause of so many diseases. So anger management is here. Why not? So such small but very relevant and important topics are being discussed here. For paucity of time, I will stop here. I would like to congratulate Dr. Radhakrishnan Nair and all the 3 other distinguished editors who have taken time and effort to put in one place such a distilled wisdom which is collected over a period of time for the benefit of a larger society. And this should not be the first one and last one, it should continue. The second edition should also include case history so that people understand and relate. When they start relating with the stories, the internalization will be very faster, and you will have a very good, very good crop of new citizens evolving in our society to the benefit of everyone. With these few words, once again, I thank everybody and Radhakrishnan in particular for inviting me and sharing my thoughts. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir. Friends, I am not taking much of your time. This is my time to say thanks to each and everyone who assembled here and who has helped me in making this real happening, this dream happening. This is the 6th book, in fact, I am publishing, and this is the first time it is being published in a function. All other things, printed and distributed by the distributors, and it has gone like that. This is in fact the teaching notes which we have prepared while we are teaching our students. Because in Rajiv Gandhi Institute in Sri Perumbudur we have done this, started this MA Life Skills Education. At that time there is no books available for this life skills per se. But you can search in several books and journals, we can have it. And while we are collecting all these things, while we are preparing the notes, at that time we never thought that we will be publishing it, but those teaching notes, then again we have reread and then again, sat and discussed and fine-tuned, and that is how this book is in front of us. The people who have helped us, Ms. Sunita Ranjan, she also worked in Rajiv Gandhi Institute as an assistant professor, and now she is a psychologist and a trainer, master trainer in life skills. She resides in Chennai. And Dr. Gauri Hardikar is from Mumbai. She is an associate professor there. She has done a lot of research in life skills, and she's also done a lot of work as a trainer, as a researcher, and she's a teacher of life skills. And Miss Divya Sandhanam, she also worked in Rajiv Gandhi Institute as a faculty in life skills department. She resides in Jaipur. And I would like to extend my heartfelt thanks to each and every one of them and their families, including my wife who is sitting in front of me, watching this program and observing this program. Because we have spent a lot of time, late hours in sitting and discussing on all these things. Their family at their house and my family and my house have understood this seriousness and helped us in fulfilling this work and given us a lot of motivation in fulfilling the dream. And I extend my heartfelt thanks to the entire family who has supported us in this venture. Friends, the young boy who is sitting very back in this stage, Mr. Dias, is the person who has done this design work and printing everything. The architect of this book is Mr. Dias, and Dias, I thank you very much. And Anil, who has supported me in making this happen, Mr. Anil Kumar. They are the two people who have stood with me in making this book happen. And of course, Mr. Vinay Kumar of Southern Bookstore. He is supposed to come here. He resides in Pathanamthitta. He could not come because of the restrictions imposed due to COVID, that he is unable to join in this program. Friends, now I come back to this present release of this book. As I already told you, my guru and my mentor Gigi sir has kindly agreed to come and release this book. I am very much obliged to you, sir. Thank you very much for this opportunity. And Dr. Ilangovan sir, who is the Principal Secretary of Industries, and I know that he is very busy to attend certain meetings in Secretariat because of the COVID situation, but still he made it a point to come, and sir, I extend my heartfelt thanks. And Mr. John Samuel, even though I came to know him very late, but we become friends very fast, and he took the responsibility of introducing the book. I thank you very much, John Samuel, and State Director of Nehru Yuva Kendra, Mr. Kunjahama, District Youth Coordinator Ali Zabrin, our former Director SRC, Dr. Sundaresan, and there are so many other friends who are sitting. I am not mentioning each and everybody by name. I thank you all for joining in this program, and all those friends who are joining in this event. From other part of Trivandrum, those who are watching online, I extend my heartfelt thanks to each and every one of you. And again, Ms. Sunitha Ranjan, Dr. Gauri Hardikar and Divya Sandhanam. Even though you three are not participating in this event at present, we each and every people who are participating here are taken note of your tremendous contribution given for fulfilling this book. I extend my heartfelt thanks to each and every one of you, and the office bearers of Golf Club who has kind enough to give us the opportunity to conduct the program here. Thanks a lot, and all the friends who are joining here, thank you very much for joining us.